My husband let his ex-wife move into our home while I was away on a work trip. She started redecorating the guest room and planning family dinners in my house. And when I refused to come back until she left, he called me immature and selfish. I've been in a hotel for 4 days. Not because anyone kicked me out, not because I have nowhere to go, but because my house, the house I bought with my husband, the house where I have lived for 6 years, is currently also being occupied by my husband's ex-wife, and I'm not walking through that door while she is still there. My husband says I'm being immature. I say I'm being exactly the opposite. My name is Sophia. I'm 37 years old, and I work in international project consulting. My job involves frequent travel, sometimes 1 week a month, sometimes 3 weeks in a row, depending on the project. This was something my husband, Ernest, knew from the very beginning. We discussed it before we got married. We agreed to it. It was never a secret or a surprise. Ernest has a 10-year-old son, Matthew, from his previous marriage. Matthew's mother's name is Veronica. Ernest and Veronica divorced 7 years ago, before Ernest and I met. The dynamic between the three of us was always cordial, respectful, with clear boundaries, focused on Matthew's well-being. I love Matthew. I say that without reservation. He's a good kid, curious, with a sense of humor that makes me genuinely laugh. My relationship with him has always been good. That was never the problem. The problem was what Ernest decided to do without asking me. I was in Lisbon when he called. It was a Tuesday night. I had been away for 9 days and had 4 more to go. I was in the hotel room going through emails when the phone rang. He told me that Veronica had lost her job 2 months ago, that she was going through a difficult time emotionally, that her mental health was fragile, that her apartment was about to go unpaid, and that he had decided to offer her the guest room of our house temporarily, mainly for Matthew's sake, so the boy could have his mother nearby in a stable environment. He told me as if it were something already decided, not as a proposal, not as a question. As a done deal, he was communicating to me as a courtesy. Veronica was already in my house when he called. The conversation that followed was one of the hardest we have had in 6 years of marriage. I told him he couldn't make that decision alone, that our house belongs to both of us, that something like this required a conversation before, not a notification after, that I understood Veronica's situation was difficult, that I understood the part about Matthew, that I wasn't insensitive to the context, but that there was an enormous difference between helping someone and making a decision that affects your married life without consulting your spouse. Ernest told me he had acted quickly because the situation was urgent, that he hadn't had time to wait, that I was making this bigger than it was, that it was only temporary. Temporary. That word people use when they mean indefinite but don't want to say indefinite out loud. When I got back from Lisbon, I decided to stay in my mother's house that night. I needed time to process everything before walking into my own home, knowing Veronica was there. What I was told was what finally made everything clear. Veronica had not simply occupied the guest room. In the days she had been there, she had reorganized the room, replaced the sheets with one she had brought herself, placed some of her personal belongings in the common areas, and had suggested, with complete naturalness, that on weekends they could have family dinners, the 3 of them plus Matthew, so the boy could experience something like a united family. Family dinners. In my house. With my husband. Organized by his ex-wife. That same night, I called Ernest and asked him something he hadn't mentioned in the Lisbon conversation. How long he had been financially supporting Veronica. There was a long pause before he answered. He told me he had been helping her with some expenses for a few months. That he hadn't told me because he didn't want me to misinterpret it. That it was for Matthew. A few months. Without telling me anything. I asked him how much money we were talking about. He gave me a figure that represented approximately 20% of his monthly salary. For 6 months, without me knowing a single thing about it. I told him I was going to stay at my mother's while I thought things through. He told me I was being immature and selfish. I hung up. I've been in this hotel for 4 days because I didn't want to keep worrying my mother. I've had time to think clearly, which is what happens when you remove a situation from the noise of immediate pressure. Here's what I think. I am not opposed to Ernest helping Veronica. I was never opposed to that. I understand there's a child in common, and that creates responsibilities that go beyond divorce. I understand, and I respect that. What I will not accept is that help being taken from a shared family budget without consulting me. What I will not accept is the decision to share our home being made without asking me. What I will not accept is that when I express that I have a problem with this, the response is to call me immature. Immaturity is not having boundaries. Immaturity is believing you can make unilateral decisions in a marriage and that the other person simply has to accept them to prove they are mature enough. Today I spoke with an attorney, just to get informed, just to understand what my options are and what my rights are. Not because I have made any decision yet, but because I prefer knowing where I stand before having the conversation that is coming. Ernest sent me a message this morning asking when I'm coming back. I told him when Veronica is no longer in my house. He hasn't responded yet, and in that silence, there's an answer I don't yet know how to read. But I'm learning, slowly, with a lot of internal noise, but I'm learning. If this story made you feel seen, comment. Would you draw the line or give in? Like if you believe boundaries in marriage are not selfishness. Subscribe for more real stories. Share with someone who needs to hear that their limits are valid. Advice: in a marriage, decisions that affect both people are made by both people. No matter how urgent the situation seems, a call before is always possible. If there wasn't one, it wasn't urgency. It was a choice.